Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome to another boring day where I will attempt to take you through the mundanity of my day-to-day life on a day-to-day basis. So, let's talk about me, I guess. So, I'm Gareth, 31, married to Adele, living in Barnsley in Yorkshire, UK. We have two dogs, Charlie, a Chihuahua Lhasa cross, Luna, a slightly overweight little Chihuahua, and we now have a 4.5-month-old little boy called Rupert Wren Davis. What I'm going to attempt to do is run you through my day in the most mundane way possible to try and help you, I suppose, relax and most inevitably bore you to sleep. So, a little bit of backstory. Our tiny, dearest little fellow, Rue, as we shorten his name to, has not been a very good sleeper since birth. He has silent reflux, which for a long time caused him a great deal of discomfort, and a allergy, we assume, to milk, soy, egg, potentially coconut, we're not sure, but he's breastfed, so we only really experience those symptoms when my wife eats any foods containing those allergens. So it's been an interesting ride, but so yeah, at the minute Adele is not eating any food containing any of those allergens. So we have his allergies under control. The reflux is being medicated using omeprazole, tailored by the doctor for his age, and he has that every morning, and it has been working. He's just gone through his 4-month sleep regression, or at least we think he's coming through the other side based on the timing of everything and how the leap chart. So for those that don't know, babies go through developmental leaps, basically where their brain, instead of progressing in a steady progressive manner, like developing each day, babies' brains actually develop in leaps. Same with how they physically grow as well. They don't grow steadily, they grow a lot in a very short period of time. And a lot of people refer to the 4-month sleep regression, which is another one of the severe leaps. It lasts up to 5 weeks. I think Rose definitely has. We've seen significant progression during those times. But what happens is they're very, very overstimulated during that time due to all the changes that are happening, so they tend to not sleep very well. And Rue, being a terrible sleeper already, continued being a terrible sleeper and in fact got worse. Luckily for us, we were already prepared for the post-sleep Adele, who has been tirelessly getting up in the night, potentially every hour, to feed the greedy little monkey, was already relatively prepared for it, so it only got a little bit worse. However, we're in a position now where we've seen the other side of it, or we're seeing things get a little bit easier, seeing him get a bit happier, so we've decided to start sleep training him, because we weren't privileged with a baby that sleeps well. We're privileged with a beautiful, happy little baby who's apparently very intelligent, but we were gifted with one that enjoys sleep very well. So at the minute we are trying to sleep train him. We have been for the last few days, and it appears to be working. He appears to be dropping off in the night when we put him in his crib. We can go through our routine, which involves a little bit of naked time for him, because he likes being naked. I think baby boys do, so he just gets to be a little bit naked, that he gets to go in and bath, get all scrubbed up. I play a little bit of music for him on my guitar, just hoping that it might affect him at some point later in life, and then in a positive way, of course. Then get him out, get him dressed, get him into his little sleeping bag that he has. And so I was just making sure this is recorded. I was very unsure whether it was recorded then, but it is. Then we get him into his sleeping bag, and Adele, she feeds him, and then she gives him a little rock, gives him a little sing-song. His go-to song is Belle from Beauty and the Beast. I think Adele hears that multiple times a day, every single day at the minute. She sings it to him to try and rock him off. I don't think we'll ever forget that song now. We could never look at Beauty and the Beast the same way again. And then lay him down into his crib. Historically, he would have just got upset and cried, very unhappy about the training that we've been doing. He's put him down. 5 minutes of being unsettled. He's then settled himself. Me and him have settled each other anyway. I've reassured him and encouraged him to drop off, and he's gone. He's asleep right now. The last 3 days have been the first 3 days where he's been asleep and we've been able to stay awake. But what it does mean is that he's also been sleeping a bit better through the night, longer periods, 2 to 3 hours, early in the night anyway, and then dropping off to maybe that hour increments a little bit later on. I think his sleep cycle is an hour, so every time he goes through a sleep cycle he seems to be waking up a little bit, perhaps uncomfortable or a bit needy or even hungry. It's one of those 3 things, so you've got to be quiet. You've got to know whether he can soothe himself or whether he needs feeding. But this morning he woke up significantly later than usual. I think he'd had a relatively good night, and with babies, sleep breeds more sleep, so he slept in a little bit later. Typically he'd wake up about 8 o'clock, oftentimes before that, between 7:30 and 8, but this morning he slept until 9:15. So we had just enough time then to get up and go and prepare his medication. So first things first, change his nappy, get him a change of clothes. If he's leaked out of his nappy, sometimes he does. It's just how it is, so change his little clothes. Go down, let the dogs out for the wee in the garden, get the kettle on because I always sterilise the preparation container, just a cup really, and his syringe for his medication, because it needs to be little tablets that you need to dissolve in water and then you give it to him via a syringe. And I always make myself a cup of tea at the same time because there's no other way to start the day. Well, except for Adele, who's not drinking caffeine and she's not drinking milk, so she's basically got a decaf coffee without milk. So, yeah, dog's been out. I'm preparing his medication, so I put the medication, sterilise the container, sterilise the syringe. Then I mix the tablet with 8 ml of warm water. Mix it up and then allow it to cool within the syringe. So I'll put it into the syringe, allow it to cool, and then it's depending on the mood that he's in. It's either very easy giving him his medication or it's an absolute battle. This morning, despite having a good sleep, he woke up in a bit of a strange mood. He seemed like he didn't want to take his medication, get pinning his mouth closed, like bursting his lips almost, keeping them together and not letting you even put the syringe in. One thing that does help is if you're of that age now where he's wanting to grip stuff all the time, anything he can get a hold of, he'll grip it. So let's place the syringe in his hand and let him put the syringe in his mouth himself, or at least guide it into his mouth. And then you can slowly just sort of tap on the end of the syringe and put the medication in a little bit by bit, but typically it takes a good 10 minutes to get it all in, which, yeah, it's 50-50 whether we will enjoy or not. So after that, Adele takes him. Sometimes if it's been a particularly bad night, I'll take him for a little bit and I'll have him while I'm working for maybe the first hour. It does happen because I'm now in a position when I'm working from home. So I might have him on my lap while I'm working. This morning, luckily, because of the improved night's sleep and the fact that Adele was able to get to sleep earlier and sleep for longer, she got up with myself, so she had him, and then I went and started work. The job that I'm working in, I've only been working in since the start of December, so I'm still in a position of training and gaining responsibility. For me, I enjoy responsibility and I enjoy having that responsibility to motivate me to work, but prerequisites in place before you're able to work with the customers. So at the minute, I'm still settling into the role. I'm still doing some training to gain an accreditation, and it's been steady so far. But that's fine. That's been incredibly convenient for me with the massive change in life with the baby. It means that my days have been much less stressful than they used to be. I've been able to go through training resources at my own pace, and what work I've been doing, I've been able to do that and treat it as a learning opportunity. So that was most of my morning, to be honest, working, helping Adele a little bit with getting Roo for his naps, because he has to sleep every 2 hours. Babies of his age. One thing I didn't realise originally is that you have to encourage babies to nap. Babies need to nap multiple times a day. No one ever really tells you that. We didn't realise at first. But you have to make them nap, because again, sleep breeds sleep. If they do not nap through the day, they will not want to nap at night, because if babies go overtired, their body releases adrenaline and it releases the stress hormone cortisol, which makes them very unhappy, and it will lead to them being up for hours and hours over the bedtime and make them a very unhappy baby, and you a very unhappy parent. So a couple of times I've helped Del get him ready for his naps, because typically she would take him to the bedroom and rock him and sing to him to get him off to sleep with white noise machine playing and the light slightly dimmed, but recently it's not been working as well. I think due to the 4-month sleep regression causing a lot of changes. So one thing that we found is that his pram's working very well, but at the minute there's a storm out there. It's absolutely horrible weather. It's incredibly windy. At times it sounds like the roof's going to blow off. One of his neighbours' entire fence has blown down. I've seen out of my office window. And so it didn't seem like the right idea to take a baby out, and it just on the off chance something happened. So luckily we're living in a townhouse with a bit of a balcony on the back, so basically Del took him on a walk in the pram on the balcony. It's got a full rain cover over it, so the rain can't get to him, the wind can't get to him, and she just walked him back and forth for about 5-10 minutes until he dropped off. And eventually, after he dropped off, she was able to just leave him there and just leave with the door open so she can hear if he's crying or if he's wanting it. And then I was able to go back to work after I'd helped him get him in his pram suit and get the pram set up out on the balcony, and he slept for a good hour then. And then every hour and a half after him waking, that's sort of his wait window, an hour and a half to 2 hours after waking, you'll find that he gets a little bit cranky, a little bit sleepy, his eyebrows go really red. That's a good indication that he's sleepy, is that his eyebrows go red. Apologies, I'm just going to quickly check my phone, make sure that I've got a notification, make sure there's nothing wrong with the little one. Oh no, my phone is just saying that he's been sleeping for 30 minutes already, which is amazing. So apologies for checking that. So one thing that myself and Adele have been doing really is we've been eating breakfast. We're not breakfast people anyway. I find that if I eat too early, it really knocks off my blood sugar levels for the day, which I think perhaps sounds a little bit pathetic, but it does. Some people love breakfast, some people they can't survive without it, but for me, I would go as far as to say that breakfast is overrated. Breakfast foods are delicious, but breakfast itself is overrated. I think the biggest mistakes people make are having a full fry up for breakfast. You should have that for tea. That's nothing better than having a fry up for tea. Anyway, but one thing which does mean is that we tend to have lunch a little bit earlier. So I continued working up until about 11:30. We had our lunch at 11:30, and yeah, Rue was still asleep at that time. So I was able to go down and prep the meal. By the time I'd finished it, he was up and he was sort of sat on Adele's lap, so she was sort of like feeding him at the same time. Because one thing, when he's woken from his nap, is he tends to be hungry, and is very placid as well once he's woken up from his nap. He's very compliant. Because one thing recently as well is that going through the leaps and particularly during the 4-month sleep regression, is boob avoidance. For babies to drink with the bottle, it's the same. They'll reject the bottle, but he's been avoiding the boob. The boob used to be God. It used to do everything. It used to soothe his pains. It used to put him to sleep. It used to make him happy. Obviously, it made him full. Now, it just about makes him full. He is not enjoying it as much as he used to. But one thing you can rest assured is that once he's had a nap, he will wake up hungry and very compliant, and he will drink up that white nectar like anything. So I go downstairs, I make a lunch. It was just a ham sandwich, some butter, some vegan garlic mayonnaise because Adele's not eating eggs. Some ham, contradictory to the vegan mayonnaise, but we're not actually vegan, despite our best interest. We're encouraging to eat less meat, irrespective of eating a ham sandwich with some lettuce and some cucumber on it. Made using Jackson's bread because we didn't realise that most shop bought breads contain soya flour, and Adele's not eating soya because 50% of all babies with a cow's milk protein allergy, which we suspect, or Rue's at least been diagnosed with, have a soya allergy as well. So we then realised Adele was eating Warburton's for ages. But it turns out that contains soya flour, and one of the few ones that you can buy from a supermarket that don't contain soya flour is Jackson's, and thank goodness, but Jackson's is an incredibly nice white bread. I must admit, I go through phases of not eating bread. I try to discourage myself from eating it. Obviously, simple carbohydrates, fast absorbing, fast digestion, spiking your blood sugar levels. It's not healthy for you, but god damn is it delicious. And sort of when you're a sleep deprived new dad looking for any simple pleasure to get him through the day, whether it's just a cup of tea or whether it's white bread, you have to take it. So I've become a slave to the bread again. So a nice ham salad sandwich combined with a packet of prawn cocktail crisps for myself and other